Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 86 of my modded Factorio playthrough. This is the big day where we get to start flipping switches and seeing how all this logic works with turning on and off all of the various tier 2 ore sorting. Enjoy! Alright, so the way that we test this setup is we turn off each one of these combinators one at a time, because right now they're generating a signal that's artificial, but we want to turn it off so the system will work properly. And to try to see, like if we just turn them off all at the same time, it's going to be pandemonium. Let's do them one at a time, especially because we're just not going to have the resources, I think, to run everything simultaneously. We're not going to have the mining capacity or the power in the base. So let's do them one at a time, but also so we can check to see how everything works. So let's test the first one, and let's do iron. So what's going to happen when we turn on iron? Well, lots of things are going to run. Crotinium chunks are going to go. Stereotype chunks. Crotinium crushed. Stereotype crushed. Givelite chunks. Sapphirite chunks. Givelite crushed. Sapphirite crushed. Ferrous powder and a ferrous mixture as well. And catalyst if we had them, but those aren't going to run. So literally 10 different setups are going to run simultaneously. And we should generate a whole bunch of iron very quickly. But then we should see them start to turn off as iron collects. And because a lot of these are going to be producing byproduct ores, you're going to see all of these warehouses start to collect random ores as well. But the numbers on the poles aren't going to change because they're being determined by the combinators. So, fingers crossed. Did all this work actually mean something, or is it a lot of stuff need to get fixed still? Boom. I mean, it's, I hope you have 4K to see all this. Hey, it's looking good. Lots of green. And it's slowly sorting through everything. And iron is at the very back, so all that's left are the iron pieces. So this is how fast we can produce iron. I don't know how many items per second that is. Well, I guess we could find out. We just tested this, so we should be producing 75 iron per second. Yeah, it looks like about 75 per second. And it looks like we are having a bit of a bottleneck here. And we also have some manganese, which is making it through, which it shouldn't, so we got to figure out how that's happening. But now we're up to 4,000, so we should start seeing some of these processes turning off. And it seems like they have. So why is it manganese? Because we're producing manganese through a different sorting method. So we're producing manganese through two different methods. I don't know. If you noticed that while I was building this, you're probably screaming at the screen. You're like, no, you gotta put the things up there. So we'll have to fix that. But I mean, it's piling up a little bit, but it's working. It hasn't clogged anything, so it seems good enough. And as this number gets higher, the rate that we're going to produce iron ore is going to slow down because less and less setups are given permission to run. I'll worry about fixing this ore in a second because I want to see this kind of work. I feel like some of the other ones aren't running that should be. Because they go up sequentially. So which ones aren't running if we're above 10,000? Basically, Givelite and Sapphirite. Let's go down the list of each item in a row to make sure they're all set up properly. It's going to be kind of a bit of walking here. But first, it's crotinium chunks. Oh, I see. Well, we're clogged up on here. But this should be unlimited, because this is going to absorb everything we're producing. And actually, we might want to have a warehouse instead, now that I think about it. So let's set that there. And have 3 more. Going into a warehouse. There we go. That should clear up. So let's go through and check all these setups. Probably should do it with every one, just as a failsafe, just to make sure everything's working. Then crushed crotinium. Over here. Should be set to 6,000 as opposed to 8. Well, there's no lights in this one. It's all dark. And it looks like everything has stopped. It's already nighttime. But we go down to our warehouse and we have about 20,000, which is the set point. So I probably should do some error checking on everything. Iron and copper take way longer than everything else to error check. But lesson learned there. But we do have this manganese. So we need to change the manganese setup. So might as well throw it in there. Luckily, it's pretty straightforward to just set this to manganese. There's the output. Now we need to connect these back up. And finally we can copy this little bit. Is the alignment a little different? I see. We don't need that there. Okay. Well, let's go through copper and check everything. Crushed cupric, which is over here. Should be 18,000. It is. Now watch there not be any problems. And then the powdered cupric should be 20,000. And of course it is. Fantastic. Well, I'm just going to go through everything then, and I'll be back in a second when I make sure it's all good. Alright, that looks set up, so of course it was only iron that was messed up, at least as far as I can tell. Everything else looks pretty good. And the sun's about to come up again, so that'll be useful. So it's about time to test more stuff here. So what did we end up with after making 20,000 iron? Well, we have 6.4 thousand copper, 153 lead, which seems kind of weird. I'm sure it's intentional somehow. 1,000 tin, 12,000 manganese, 2.4 thousand nickel, 241 silicon, 600 silver, 202 zinc, 366 aluminum. Alright, it's time for the inverse of iron, which is copper. So we'll turn off the signal generator and watch the fireworks. Now, because we already have 6.4 thousand copper, the less desirable methods of creating copper aren't going to run. Like you see how this method here isn't running at all, even though copper is available, because it's less desirable and it has been turned off. Now that is a lot of ore. It looks like it's slightly more ore than was on the iron side. So perhaps it is all set up properly now. And we should be getting about 75 a second. Yeah, seems like it. And you can see we're also getting iron because it's being produced as a byproduct of making copper. So we are collecting iron as well, and that's why we have these buffers. As different resources are required, we're going to end up having some form of byproducts, and they'll eventually be used, but it's basically impossible to have every warehouse have the exact number of resources we want, unless we do catalyst production. Then that will be the case. So later on in the game, when you can make everything through catalysts, it can be a lot smoother than this. But right now, this is kind of how we're going to do things. This looks like the amount of iron we're producing is slowing down because different systems are turning off. How are we doing on all that slag? Probably making quite a lot of it. But we have lots of space. Well, haven't really been paying attention to what's happening down here. But we don't need to really worry about it. Because the system is designed to use one full belt of crushed and one full belt of not crushed. So we're using all the belt, so that's fine. It's perfectly acceptable for some of it to go this way and some of it to go that way. Yep. It's starting to quiet down here. So I believe the set point should be similar to iron. So once we get to about 20,000, it should shut everything off. Looks like we're only producing it through two methods now, through the cupric powder and crushed cupric mixtures, which are the most ideal ways. Usually most things out of those mixtures are the most ideal way, so that makes sense. Alright, now that we hit 18,000, this system has stopped. So now the only one that's going is the most ideal way, which is the powdered cupric mixture. Let's just let this run to its conclusion. Still producing it decently fast, even though it's only one machine now. So what do we end up with? 24,000 iron. We're going to have about 20,000 copper in a second. 580 lead. 7.5 thousand tin. Looks like manganese didn't change. 2.4 thousand of nickel. 249. Hey, we've got a decent amount of silver now. 2.6 thousand. And it looks like a little more aluminum. There we go. It shut off. That worked well. Let's test out lead. Since lead only has 580 in there, all the methods to produce it should turn on. And there aren't many. There's only 4 methods, and one of them is through the catalyst, so we should only have 3 of them going. And that is the case. And that is a lot of color. That seems to be working alright. I don't want to wait for every single one of these to fill up one at a time. This is going to take a little while. So let's do tin. Flip off the switch. And now all the tin producing items are going to start up. Well, the ones that we need anyway. Because I guess we already have 8.2 thousand tin. So it looks like we only have one going here. Just the crushed cupric mixture. And manganese is a byproduct, so it has nothing to turn on, but we might as well turn off the signal generator because it doesn't really change anything. Okay, let's make our nickel. So we'll flip that switch. And it looks like we're already getting nickel as a result of other things. So there's not much to see there. And let's flip the switch for silicon. There we go. We've got a whole lot going. What's the power look like for the base? It's actually not too bad. 60 megawatts. It's pretty acceptable. So, what does the resources look like? Yeah, stuff's moving. It's not moving super fast. But it all looks pretty good. Well, everything's worked so far. Let's flip all the remaining switches. Let's turn on silver. And zinc. And aluminum. So now, the wires are going to report all the actual numbers. And this is basically what the system's going to look like. Some lines running, some not. Some fully loaded with product and fine, some of them falling behind, but that's okay, because the base is producing it at one belt for each input product, so it is fine. We are producing it as fast as we can, and you can't expect any more than that. Let's make sure we're not overloaded with byproducts down here. It's all pretty good. Oh, that one's kind of getting full. Well, I don't have the resources for a warehouse. So let's just put a strong box in here. And have it just dump everything. Just to empty that out. How are we doing with lubricant? It's holding out, at least on this end. But how are we doing on this side? It is empty. Probably going to need to set up some drones to take our stored lubricant from all the way down here and unbarrel it and pop it in here. But there's still lubricant down on this end, so that means the system can still work. How are we doing with... Oh my goodness, look at all that yummy sulfur. That's gonna fill up soon too. But a lot of that sulfur. Man, look at that. Look at all that acid products. Oh my goodness, well, good thing I did check. Because we are completely filled with crushed stone. Well, shucks. Well, we're gonna have to move that. But that's easy enough to fix. Well, unfortunately, that truck doesn't hold very much of it. Where's the crawler at? The crawler holds way more. There we go. There. The crawler's filled up and has room to spare. Oh, might as well grab out all this sulfur. Take that back to the base. That might explain why things are going a little slow. But each setup gets its own belt, so the second that's cleared up, everything is moving ahead at full speed again. So what's it look like on this end? Let's put some flares out so we can see. Looking pretty good. We only have a couple lines still running. How's power usage now? Yeah, still about 60,000. That's quite alright. Alright, this turned off right here because we have our 4,000 zinc. So now all we're waiting for is aluminum to get to 6,000, and then this will shut off. There we go. Aluminum has hit the set point. And that should be everything. It's all going to clear out now. But this is what it looks like in its idle state. Is all of these belts are clear. And just these warehouses are holding on to the appropriate resources. Well, it looks like this one's still going though. Probably didn't have any botmonium because of the crushed stone blockage, but it's going now. But that'll probably turn off when that hits 8,000. And everything's looking pretty good. The good news is nothing else made it to the end on these storehouses here, so that's working as it should. Well, I'm pretty pleased. It's looking pretty good. It's all smooth. And from here, you might want to rush into researching all of these different methods and starting to smelt everything. But you kind of have to put that on hold, because the problem is right now we're living on borrowed time just by having these storehouses hold on to resources. So we're going to need to process those. Basically, we're going to need to have two separate setups we're going to need to build to support this. We're going to need to have stone processing, which will process this slag and these geodes and this crushed stone. And we'll also need acid processing to handle all of these byproducts from cleaning all the wastewater. And essentially, we need both of those systems in place because we can turn all of that into mineral catalyst, and we can send those back on the bus here and set up the final methods of production, which are our most efficient. So that is the next thing on the list of stuff to do. That's gonna have to wait till the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.